Section 8. Article 12 was clear. No civilization below Type 1 status on the Kardashev scale was to be contacted, observed, or interfered with in any manner. The penalty was permanent exile. Commander Vrylox Natha stared through the view screen at the blue-green world below, thumb nervously stroking the activation crystal hanging from her neck. Behind her, the bridge of the endless horizon was unnaturally quiet, the usual ambient chatter of her crew replaced by tense, shallow breathing. "Final systems check," she ordered, her four eyes blinking in asymmetrical patterns that betrayed her anxiety. Lieutenant Morisk's crystalline appendages clicked against the control console. "Stealth systems at maximum. Quantum shields are holding. We're invisible to their primitive detection systems, Commander." "And Section 8 override?" "Active. But, Commander..." Morisk hesitated, mandibles trembling. "The override will only mask our presence from concordate sensors for 72 hours. After that, we become outlaws," Vrylox finished. "I'm aware of the consequences, Lieutenant." The truth was they had no choice. The plague ravaging their homeworld of Lysithea was consuming their population at an exponential rate. Their scientists had tried everything, but only one hope remained. Ancient records suggested that the primitive species on Earth possessed a genetic anomaly that might hold the cure. "Atmospheric entry in 5 minutes, announced Navigator Peltz, his voice unnaturally high. Unlike the others, his exoskeleton was still in its juvenile blue phase, too young for a mission with such consequences. Vrylox addressed her crew of 15, each chosen for this suicide mission. "We knew the risks when we volunteered. If we succeed, we save billions. If we fail..." She didn't need to finish. They all knew. Permanent exile from concordate space. Never to see home again! As they breached Earth's atmosphere, the ship shuddered violently. "Commander! Unexpected energy field detected!" shouted Morisk. Vrylox lurched forward. "What? Earth doesn't have the technology for..." A blinding flash engulfed the bridge. Systems failed in cascading sequence as the endless horizon plummeted from the sky. Emergency protocols engaged, but too late to prevent a brutal impact into a remote forest of the northern hemisphere. When Vrylox regained consciousness, she found herself pinned beneath a twisted section of bridge plating. 3 of her eyes were operational, enough to survey the catastrophic damage. The air smelled wrong, too rich in nitrogen, laced with unfamiliar organic compounds. "Earth air. Status report," she croaked into her communicator. Chief Engineer Draz responded, his voice barely audible through the static. "Main power core ruptured. Secondary systems failing. Hull integrity at 17%. Casualties?" A long pause. 3 confirmed dead. Everyone else injured to varying degrees. Vrylox closed her eyes momentarily. "Containment protocols?" "Failing. Our presence will be detectable to the humans within hours." She fought through the pain to activate the emergency beacon, not to signal home, which was now forever beyond their reach, but to gather her surviving crew. As she did, her sensor implant picked up approaching vehicles, primitive combustion engines. The natives had detected their crash. "Lock down all sensitive technology," she ordered. "Prepare first contact protocols." "Commander," came Scientist, Ekria's voice, uncharacteristically emotional. "I've analyzed the energy field that disabled us. It's not human technology." Vrylox froze. "Explain." "The signature matches concordate enforcement protocols. We've been deliberately stranded here." The realization hit Vrylox like a physical blow. This wasn't an accident. Someone in the concordate had ensured they would never leave. Earth, trapped forever on a primitive world that was supposed to remain untouched. As the human vehicles drew closer, Vrylox made a decision. "We have a new mission now," she told her crew. "Survival, and finding out who wanted us trapped here, and why." The humans arrived in vehicles marked with symbols Vrylox's translator identified as U.S. military. Their weapons were crude, chemical propellants launching metal projectiles, but their numbers were overwhelming. The surviving crew of the Endless Horizon, weakened and injured, had no choice but to surrender. Major Raisley Kincaid had seen many things in his 20 years of service, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of 11 extraterrestrial beings, emerging from the wreckage with their four-fingered appendages raised in apparent surrender. The tallest stood just over 5 feet, with iridescent blue-gray skin that seemed to ripple with subtle bioluminescence. 4 independently moving eyes studied the humans with evident intelligence. "Hold your fire," Kincaid ordered his nervous troops. Then, addressing the alien who appeared to be the leader, he spoke slowly. "We mean you no harm." To his shock, the alien responded in perfect English. "Neither do we. I am Commander Vrylox Natha of the research vessel Endless Horizon. We request asylum and medical assistance." Within hours, the crash site was quarantined. The aliens and their technology were transported to a hastily established containment facility at Nellis Air Force Base. Vrylox and her crew submitted to decontamination procedures and medical examinations while carefully revealing only selected information about their species and civilization. Dr. Imara Okafor, the xenobiologist assigned to the case, stared in fascination at the cellular samples under her microscope. Their DNA, or equivalent, is unlike anything we've ever theorized. Triple helix structure with nodes I can't even begin to understand. Across the facility, scientist Ekria was conducting her own analysis. Under the guise of medical cooperation, she had managed to obtain human genetic samples. Her findings confirmed their ancient records. Humans possessed a unique genetic sequence that functioned as a natural counter to the plague-devastating Lysithea, but extraction and synthesis would require time and resources they no longer had. Their ship was beyond repair, their communication with home impossible, and there was still the mystery of who had stranded them here. "Our welcome is precarious," Vrylox told her assembled crew in their containment quarters. "These humans fear what they don't understand, and rightly so. We must earn their trust while continuing our mission." Engineer Draws, his arm in a primitive cast, looked skeptical. "And how do we do that? Our technology is sealed away, our ship is under guard, and we're being watched constantly." "We have one advantage," Vrylox replied. "Knowledge. We know more about their world than they realize, and we know what's coming." Navigator Peltz looked up sharply. "Commander, you can't be suggesting—" "The Concordate's non-interference protocols exist for a reason," Vrylox continued. "But those same people who created those laws have now abandoned us here. We're already exiles. The old rules no longer apply." Lieutenant Morisk's crystalline appendages trembled. "What exactly are you proposing?" Vrylox's inner eyelids closed, briefly in what her species recognized as grave determination. "The humans are kind enough in their way, but they're divided, short-sighted. In less than 3 decades, they'll face extinction-level threats they aren't prepared for. If we can't return home, perhaps we can save this world instead." "And in exchange?" asked Medical Officer Lands. "In exchange, we ask for their help developing the cure our people need. Then we find a way to send it home, even if we can never follow." The meeting was interrupted by the arrival of Major Kincaid and Dr. Okafor. Their expressions were grim. "Commander Vrylox," Kincaid said formally, "our government has questions about your presence here, specifically about these energy readings we detected just before your ship crashed. They appear to be consistent with weapons fire." Vrylox exchanged glances with Ekria. This was unexpected. Human technology shouldn't have been able to detect concordant enforcement measures. "You're correct, Major," Vrylox decided to admit. "We were shot down. Not by humans, but by our own people. We broke our most sacred law by coming here, and now we're paying the price." Kincaid's eyes narrowed. "And why did you come here, Commander?" Vrylox took a calculated risk. "To save our species, and now, perhaps, to save yours as well. 6 months after the crash, the situation had evolved in ways neither humans nor aliens had anticipated. The existence of the Lysithians as Earth governments, now called Vrelox's people, remained a closely guarded secret. A joint scientific and military operation, codenamed Project Horizon, had been established in an underground facility beneath the Nevada desert. The alliance was fragile, built on mutual need rather than trust. The Lysithians provided limited technological insights, carefully avoiding anything that might accelerate Earth's development too rapidly, while human scientists worked alongside them on the plague cure. Dr. Imara Okafor had become the primary liaison between the species, earning Vrelox's respect through her brilliant mind and unwavering integrity. Today, they stood together in the main laboratory, reviewing holographic simulations of virus mutations. The adaptive properties are unlike anything in Earth's biological history, Imara noted, manipulating the hologram with gloved hands. But we're making progress. The enzyme extracted from human bone marrow shows promising inhibitory effects. Vrelox's upper eyes tracked the simulation, while her lower ones observed the human. You've accomplished in months what our scientists couldn't in years. Only because we're working from your research, Imara replied. It's remarkable how complementary our approaches have been. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from the facility's security center. Major Kincaid's voice crackled over the intercom. Dr. Okafor, Commander Vrelox, we have a situation. Conference room immediately. In the conference room, they found Kincaid with Lieutenant Morisk and a grim-faced official Vrelox recognized as Director Harrington of Earth's Combined Intelligence Agencies. We've detected another ship entering Earth's atmosphere, Harrington announced without preamble. Same energy signature as yours, Commander, but larger, much larger. Vrelox felt. Her heart valves constrict. That's impossible. The Concordat would never— It's not the Concordat, interrupted Morisk. I've analyzed the signal pattern. It's Vascari. The room fell silent. Vrelox had deliberately avoided mentioning the Vascari to their human allies, a predatory species that had once been the Lysithians' most bitter enemies before joining the Concordat. Who are the Vascari? Demanded Harrington. Vrelox exchanged glances with Morisk before answering. A species we hoped you would never have to encounter. If they're here, it means the situation on Lysithea is worse than we imagined. You failed to mention hostile aliens in our previous briefings, Kincaid said coldly. Because they shouldn't be here, Vrelox insisted. The Vascari joined the Concordat 800 years ago. Unless— A terrible suspicion formed in her mind. Unless they've also violated the non-interference protocols. But why would they risk exile? The answer came 3 hours later when the Vascari ship established orbit and transmitted a message directly to the facility, somehow knowing exactly where the Lysithians were hidden. On the view screen appeared Commander Garax, his reptilian features arranged in what passed for a smile among his kind. Bony ridges framed yellow eyes with vertical pupils, and segmented armor covered his massive frame. Commander Vrelox, he hissed. How fortunate to find you alive. Commander Garax, Vrelox responded cautiously. Your presence here violates section. Garax's laugh was like stones grinding together. As did yours. But circumstances have changed. The plague has mutated. Half of Lysithea's population is gone. The Concordat has quarantined our entire sector. Vrelox felt her crew's shock and despair. Then why are you here? To bring us home? No, to ensure you never return. Garax leaned closer to the screen. Your mission was bold, but misguided. The Concordat believes humans must remain isolated until they evolve naturally. We, Vascari, disagree. This species has potential, as a resource. Vrelox's translator struggled with the Vascari idiom, but she understood the implication. You want to harvest them. Their genetic material is valuable, yes, but more importantly, Earth itself is valuable. The Concordat has hidden a crucial fact from developing worlds. Habitable planets are increasingly rare. We came to claim this one and eliminate witnesses to our violation. As the transmission ended, Vrylox turned to the horrified humans. Now, you understand our predicament. The Vascari will destroy your civilization unless we stop them, and we need your help to do it. Director Harrington's voice was ice. You brought this threat to our doorstep. No, Vrylox countered. We were both betrayed by the same forces. The question is, will we fight together or die separately? The Vascari ultimatum was simple. Surrender the Lysithian crew and provide access to Earth's population for sampling or face orbital bombardment of major cities. They gave Earth 48 hours to comply. World leaders, hastily informed of the extraterrestrial situation, were divided between surrender and hopeless resistance. Earth's most powerful weapons could not reach the Vascari vessel in orbit, and even if they could, they would be useless against its advanced shields. In the underground war room of Project Horizon, Vrylox stood before a desperate assembly of military commanders and government officials. There is a third option, she announced. When our ship crashed, we followed protocol and jettisoned our secure weapons module. Your people recovered it but haven't been able to access it. Director Harrington leaned forward. You're saying you had weapons that could threaten this Vascari ship, and you kept this from us for 6 months? They're not traditional weapons, Vrylox clarified. They're defensive systems designed to counteract Concordat enforcement technology, the same technology that shot us down, and the same technology the Vascari ship uses. Major Kincaid's expression darkened. You built illegal countermeasures? Against your own government's security systems? We came here knowing we might be pursued, Vrylox admitted. It was a precaution we hoped never to use. After heated debate, the humans agreed to release the sealed weapons module. Under Vrylox's direction, Engineer Draz and a team of human technicians began adapting the Lysithian countermeasures to Earth delivery systems. It was a desperate fusion of technologies, separated by millennia of development. Meanwhile, scientist Ekria made a breakthrough with the plague cure. Working with Dr. Okafor, she had successfully synthesized a retroviral agent using modified human stem cells. The cure worked in simulations, but they had no way to test it on actual Lysithian subjects, and no way to deliver it to their homeworld. As the deadline approached, Vrylox found Ekria alone in the lab, slumped over her workstation. You should rest, Vrylox said gently. Ekria looked up, her 4 eyes rimmed with exhaustion. I've completed it. The cure. It would save our people if only we could send it home. Vrylox placed a hand on her colleague's shoulder. First, we must ensure there's a home to return to. The Vascari won't stop with Earth. If they break Concordat law here without consequences, other worlds will follow. Do you think our countermeasures will work? They were designed for escape, not offense. Draz believes we can reverse the energy signature, Vrylox explained. Instead of merely deflecting Concordat enforcement measures, we can reflect them back at the source. If it works, the Vascari ship will be crippled by its own weapons. Ekria's inner eyelids blinked rapidly, a sign of deep concern. And if it doesn't? Before Vrylox could answer, alarms blared throughout the facility. The Vascari had launched their first demonstration attack, a precision strike that vaporized a small, uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean. The message was clear. Next time, they wouldn't choose an empty target. With 18 hours remaining, the modified countermeasures were loaded onto 12 Earth missiles. The plan was simple but desperate. The missiles would approach the Vascari ship from multiple vectors. They didn't need to penetrate the alien vessel's shields. They only needed to get close enough for the countermeasures to activate. As final preparations were made, Vrylox received a private communication from Commander Garax. One final offer, the Vascari commander hissed. Surrender yourself and your crew. Give us the human genetic samples we need. In exchange, we will spare this planet major damage. We need the humans alive after all. And my people. Will the cure reach Lysithea? Garax's vertical pupils narrowed. There is no cure, Vrelox. The plague was engineered by the Concordat itself, a controlled population reduction deemed necessary for resource management. Your mission was doomed from the start. The revelation staggered Vrelox. If Garax was telling the truth, everything they had sacrificed had been for nothing. Their government had created the plague, then ensured any attempted solution would fail. You're lying, she managed finally. Am I? Think, Vrelox. Why else would the Concordat strand you here rather than simply destroying your ship? You were meant to live out your days in exile, believing your sacrifice was noble. The truth is, you were. Inconvenient evidence of a policy no citizen was meant to discover. As the communication ended, Vrelox stood frozen in shock. Around her, humans and Lysithians continued their desperate preparations, unaware that their mission might have been compromised from the very beginning. She had a choice to make, and less than 18 hours to make it. The strike against the Vascari ship launched at dawn, 17 missiles carrying Lysithian countermeasures modified by human engineers. As expected, the Vascari defenses easily destroyed 5 of them. What they couldn't anticipate was that these were decoys, designed to map the ship's defensive response patterns. The remaining 12 missiles adjusted their approach vectors based on this data, using Earth's magnetic field as cover. When they detonated near the Vascari shields, they didn't attempt to penetrate. Instead, they created a resonance field that reflected the ship's own energy back at it. From the command center beneath the Nevada desert, humans and Lysithians watched tensely as satellite imagery showed the massive alien vessel shuddering in orbit, its shields fluctuating wildly. "It's working!" breathed Engineer Draz, his crystalline appendages clicking rapidly over the monitoring equipment. Their primary systems are destabilizing. But their victory was short-lived. The Vascari ship, though damaged, remained operational. Worse, it began maneuvering into position for a retaliatory strike against the launch sites. "Brace for impact," ordered Major Kincaid, as they watched the Vascari weapons systems powering up. The expected attack never came. Instead, a new energy signature appeared on their sensors, massive and unmistakable. "Concordat enforcement vessel," whispered Morisk. "Class 7. The Vascari are as good as dead." The newly arrived ship dwarfed both the Vascari vessel and Earth's moon. Without warning or communication, it fired a single pulse that immobilized the Vascari ship completely. Then, to everyone's surprise, a transmission reached not the world's military channels, but directly to Vrelox's personal communicator, a device that shouldn't have been functional since their crash. The being on the screen was neither Lysithian nor Vascari, but a mediator, one of the oldest species in the Concordat, recognizable by their crystalline, almost transparent appearance. "Commander Vrelox Natha," the mediator spoke, its voice resonating strangely. "The Concordat acknowledges your transmission." Vrelox blinked in confusion. "What transmission?" "The one you have been sending for the past 6 months. Did you think we wouldn't notice the quantum signature embedded in your plague cure research? Most ingenious." Understanding dawned on Vrelox as she turned to scientist Ekria, who met her gaze steadily. "I encoded our findings into a quantum beacon," Ekria admitted. "Every experiment we conducted sent data packets through subspace. I couldn't be certain they were reaching anyone." The mediator continued. "Your evidence of Vascari interference, combined with your discoveries about the true nature of the Lysithian plague, has forced an emergency session of the Concordat Council. The faction responsible for both the plague and your exile has been removed from authority." Director Harrington stepped forward. "What does this mean for Earth?" The mediator regarded the human with ancient eyes. "It means, Director Harrington, that your world stands at a crossroads. The Vascari violation was stopped, but Earth's isolation has been irreparably compromised. The Concordat must now decide whether to accelerate your world's integration or implement more permanent measures. You can't destroy an entire civilization because of actions we had no part in," Dr. Okafor protested. "That decision is not mine to make," the mediator replied. "But Commander Vrylox and her crew will be given the opportunity to testify before the Council. Their recommendations will carry significant weight." After the transmission ended, Vrylox faced her human allies, the weight of an entire world suddenly on her shoulders. "What will you tell them?" asked Major Kincaid. Vrylox looked around at the humans who had worked alongside her crew for months, who had helped develop a cure for a plague they had no part in creating, who had fought alongside them against a threat not of their making. "I will tell them the truth," she answered, "that in the short time we've known humans, they've shown more compassion, ingenuity, and courage than many species who have held Concordat membership for millennia. That Earth deserves its chance." "And your people?" Dr. Okafor asked gently. "Will you return home?" Vrylox's 4 eyes blinked in asynchronous patterns of emotion. "Home is more than a place, Doctor. For 6 months we have lived as exiles. Now we must decide where our future lies." As the Concordat ship maintained its position in orbit, the humans and Lysithians below began preparations for a journey none of them had anticipated. A journey that would determine the fate of 2 worlds. The Concordat Chamber of Judgment stretched across what seemed like infinity, its transparent floor revealing the cosmic dance of galaxies below. Vrylox stood with her crew at the center of the circular platform, surrounded by representatives of 500 spacefaring civilizations. Some appeared physically, others as holographic projections, and still others as pure energy forms. For 3 days, they had testified about their experiences on Earth, presenting evidence of human compassion, innovation, and potential. They had also exposed the conspiracy that had created the Lysithian plague, a radical faction within the Concordat that believed population control was necessary for resource management across the galaxy. Now, as the final day of judgment arrived, Vrylox was permitted one last statement before the verdict. "Esteemed members of the Concordat," she began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber. "For 17 millennia, we have hidden behind Section 8, Article 12, claiming we protect, developing worlds from corruption. But I have learned that isolation is not protection, it is abandonment." Murmurs rippled through the assembly as she continued. "Humans are flawed, as are we all. They fight among themselves. They damage their environment. They fear what they don't understand. But they also heal what is broken, preserve what is beautiful, and reach beyond their limitations. In 6 months, working with limited resources and knowledge, they helped us develop a cure that our own scientists couldn't create in years." The chief mediator, a being composed of shifting light patterns, spoke. "Are you suggesting we abandon the non-interference protocols entirely, Commander?" "I suggest we evolve them," Vrylox answered. "The galaxy faces threats greater than any single civilization. The plague that struck Lysithea could someday affect others. The Vascari's resource. Desperation will only grow. We need new allies with new perspectives." When the deliberation ended, the verdict was unprecedented. Earth would not be destroyed or memory wiped, as had happened to other compromised civilizations. Instead, it would become the first world in Concordat history to receive limited diplomatic recognition before achieving Type 1 status. The news was delivered to Earth's assembled leaders not by Vrylox, but by Dr. Imara Okafor and Engineer Draz, the first human Lysithian diplomatic team assigned to facilitate Earth's transition. Meanwhile, on Lysithea, medical ships distributed the cure developed on Earth, already saving millions. The conspirators responsible for the plague had been stripped of authority. though many questions remained about how far the plot had extended. 6 weeks after the judgment, Vrylox stood on a hillside overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The Earth sunset painted the sky in colors her 4 eyes could appreciate uniquely, ultraviolet patterns invisible to humans dancing alongside vibrant reds and golds. Major Kincaid, now colonel and head of Earth's 1st Extraterrestrial Defense Division, joined her silently. "The Concordat diplomatic vessel leaves tomorrow," he said after a moment. "I thought you'd be making preparations." Vrylox continued watching the sunset. "My crew is divided. Half are returning to Lysithea. The others have requested permission to remain on Earth as cultural liaisons." "And you?" Kincaid asked. "The Concordat has offered me a position on the newly formed Integration Council. I would help shape policy for bringing other civilizations into the galactic community." "Sounds important." "It is," Vrylox agreed. "But I've submitted a different proposal. Earth will need advocates within the Concordat, individuals who understand both worlds. If approved, I would serve as Earth's first non-human representative." Kincaid nodded slowly. "Fighting for us from the inside." "Fighting with you," Vrylox corrected. "The Vascari won't be the last threat Earth faces from the stars, but neither will the Lysithians be the last allies you find there." As darkness fell, stars appeared overhead, no longer distant mysteries but potential destinations, challenges, allies, and adversaries. The galaxy had irrevocably changed for humanity, just as humanity had changed the galaxy by simply being what they were: adaptable, compassionate, flawed, and unstoppable. Vrylox had come to Earth seeking salvation for her people and found herself trapped. Now, by choice rather than exile, she would remain, a bridge between worlds in a universe suddenly much larger and more interconnected than either humans or Lysithians had ever imagined. What had begun as a desperate violation of ancient law had transformed into something neither species could have anticipated. A future where humanity would take its place among the stars not in isolation, but in community, for better or worse, stronger together than apart. The laws had been ignored, the trap had been sprung, and from that trap 2 civilizations had emerged, not just surviving, but transformed.